and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Katarina with KM Sews, and today's project is going to be gift bags. We are making reusable gift bags. What a great alternative to all of these paper bags and whatnot. And the good thing is they're reusable. You can use them later. You can use them as little storage bags. Little kids will love them. Let me show how they look like. So here we are. This is one of the bags. This is an 8" by 8" and 4" in depth. So that's one. And we have another one. Here we go. This one here is 6" by 6" and it's 3" deep. And just to play those Russian dolls, we have another one. And this is this cute little tiny thing. It's 4" by 4" and it's 2" deep. And guys, this is just the perfect bag for jewelries. Hello, everybody wants jewelry. So here we go, please. So we are going to make those. Let's get started. For today's tutorial, I chose the mid-size gift bag, which is the 6" by 6" and 3" in depth. And I will show you how to make these adorable corners. They look just like a package. So what do we need? We need, of course, our fabric. So this is our main fabric, and you need some lining. For the mid-size and for the smaller bags, you can use just fat quarters. So if you have some fat quarters laying around, you can use those. Then of course you need your rotary cutter or a scissor. You need your thread. In this case, it's a Gütermann polyester thread. You need cam snaps, and I use a green one and a red one. I just kind of do it a little bit different. Your cam snap press, and of course we need some clips and a ruler for cutting. So, and we will need a couple needles for later when we put that whole thing together. So let's go and start cutting all our fabric and setting it all up. Okay, so I have cut my fabric to size. For the mid-size bag, we need to cut the lining as well as the main fabric 16" in length times 10" in width. And the 16" we cut with the grain line, so it is the least stretch. We need our interfacing. I already cut that and adhered that to my fabric. I use woven fuse, but you can use SF101, whatever your preference is. And you need, for your handles, you need strips of 10" times 2.5. And I pressed that already, so you're pressing it in half. Then you open it and then you press it in half again. So your raw edges are inside on the center. And then you're folding it one more time just to create this handle. And you need 2 of them, which are already done. So here we have, this is all the material, basically what we need. Now we're taking our main panel, main fabric, and we have to fold it wrong sides together, and we're folding it in half so that all raw edges line up. So we're creating basically here a center. From the center, we are measuring now 1.5" in, and we're placing a mark, and we're placing a pin as our mark. And we do that on both sides. So that's one. Then we go to the other side and measuring again 1.5" and placing our pin. Right. Now we're turning this whole thing around, making sure that everything still lines up perfectly. And we do the same thing on the other side. We're measuring 1.5" up and placing our needle or our pin. And same on the other side, 1.5 inch. And this would create our magical corner. It looks just like a package. Perfect. I would suggest turning it around. And now we're folding from the bottom, we're folding our sides up just where the pin is. And we're lining the raw edges up so it fits perfectly. And we're taking our clips and we're clipping it in place. Perfect. We're turning our project around and folding it up again so that again all raw edges on the top meet. And then we fold it. Now we can actually remove our pins and take our clip and clip it in place. Same on the other side. We remove our pins and put our clip right here. So what we created now is a pleat, which then will create this beautiful corner. So now let's clip everything, all the sides together. And the other side as well. So that's our main panel. And just to hold it in place down below, just one clip here so it by accident doesn't open up. Good, now we can lay that aside. Now our lining piece, we're just folded right sides together so that all raw edges meet, and just clip that in place on both sides. There you go. And now we will be taking that to the sewing machine, and we just sew 3/8 of an inch on both sides, leaving the top open. And we do the same on the other side. 3/8 of an inch, leaving the top open. So let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, here we are at the sewing machine. So this is our lining piece, and we will be sewing it together at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I use a stitch length of 2.5. And again, don't forget to back stitch in the begin and at the end. So let's start in. Alrighty, so this is done. We can move on right away to our main panel. Let's put that off to the side. And I would suggest starting from the bottom where you have that pleat, because you don't want that to shift if you're starting from the top. So let's start from the bottom to keep it in place. And again, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And as we come to that pleat where it kind of ends, I would back stitch just a few stitches and then move on. And again, back stitch at the begin and the end. So just here, a little back stitch, just to kind of strengthen that seam here. Great. Now let's trim down our seam allowance just by to 1/4 of an inch. Same on the other side. And we do the same with the lining. Just about 1/4 inch. There you go. Okay, now we have to measure 1.5 inch in to make a box corner, and we will do that on the other table. So I meet you right at the table. Okay, we're back at the table. So we are going to our box corner in the lining piece only. So we are having here a crease. So we're reaching in, turning our back around, taking this corner, and then we're lining up the seam just with the crease. So we ensure that the box corner is perfect in the middle. So let's line this up. And then I'm not sure if you notice on your cutting board you have these diagonal lines. These diagonal lines make sure that when you want to do a box corner, that once you line it up against your diagonal line, your corner would be perfect. So let's line this up. So we have our seam aligned with one of those straight lines, those measuring lines. And we're measuring 1.5 inch in, and we're just marking it using just a friction pen. So this is going to be our sewing line, and we're just clipping it in place, turning the back around and doing the same on the other side, making sure that our seam lines up with that crease that we just made on the bottom. Again, lining it up with this diagonal line and measuring 1.5 inch in to create our boxed corner and making a mark. Clip that in place. And we will go back to the sewing machine, and we will be stitching right on that line to create our box corner. So I'll meet you right back at the sewing machine. Now we're back at the sewing machine, and again we will be stitching on our mark to create this box corner. And we're doing again our back stitching. That's one. Trimming off our threads. And on the other side, and we do the same on the other side. So now all that's left on our lining is to just cut those corners down to approximately 1/4 of an inch, just to get the bulk out. There you go. Now we can set this aside. We can turn it around and we have a perfect box corner. Perfect in center. Good. All right, let's set that aside. Now let's prepare our straps, our handles. So again, we folded that in half, then again in half, and one more time in half, and then we will be stitching it just 1/8 of an inch seam allowance using a stitch length of 3. Let's get started. Back stitching. That's done. Now we have to take our main panel, which we had set aside, and we will be turning it now inside out and reveal the magic of the corner. And here is your beautiful corner. I mean, how great is that? If you give it a little press, it just looks perfect and it's all nicely aligned. Great. So now we have to attach our handles, and our handles we will attach 2 inch from the seam, 2 inch in. So let's take our ruler and let's measure 2 inch in, and we will be placing our first handle. Take a little clip. We're measuring 2 inch in from the other side. Just like here. And we do the same on the other side. This is 2 inch. One and the other one. And we're just going to baste it in place. Just real quick. So it doesn't move and go away. It's just a 1/4 of an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Alrighty, now we're just snipping our threads away. Here you go. And here are the last ones. Now we're taking our main bag and taking our lining, turning the lining wrong side out, and just pushing our main fabric into the lining. Now all we need to do is just lining up the seams, and you're pushing one of the seam allowance to one side, to the left, and the other one to the right, so you can just nest the seam allowance. So it's just nesting. And you do the same on the other side. Just lining it up. So it just nests. Now you're lining up the back and just clipping it in place. There you go. Only needs a couple clips. And then we will be sewing it around at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. However, we have to keep an opening. So on one side we leave an opening so we can turn the bag inside out. So let's go and do that. And it's 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and always back stitch at the beginning and at the end. And don't forget your opening. And don't forget to stop and leave your opening here. So I'm leaving like 2 inch. Snip off the threads. And here too. And then let's cut down the seam allowance just about to 1/4 of an inch. But we're not cutting the seam allowance down where the opening is. We're just kind of rearing in, just to keep the bulk out. Alrighty. And now we're going to turn the back inside out. We're just grabbing the lining. Now we're just going to just pull it out. I'm just making our way through here. Now, since this is done, we can just push out the corners on all 4 sides, the lining obviously and the main body. And then we're just pushing the lining in. And I go quickly to the press and press everything. So we will be pressing the seams here so it lines up, rolling first with our fingers. And here is our opening, which we will be now top stitching and making sure everything is closed. And we'll top stitch everything at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. But let me get first to the press and press the back so we have a nice top edge. So now the back is pressed, and look at these beautiful corners, just like a package. So all we need to do is now top stitch around the back, and we're using 1/8 inch seam allowance, and we're starting just at the corner here of one of the seams, so it's the least visible, and making sure that we're having the handles on the back out of the side so we're not stitching by accident through it. And we're using a number 3 stitch length. Now let's get started. And we are almost done with the back. So now I meet you at the cutting table where we will be placing our snaps. So let's do that. Okay, so now here's our cute little bag, and now we just have to set our snaps. So let's measure from these handles 1 3/4 of an inch in. That should be pretty much the center of the cam snap. And let's use our awl and just place it here. And let's, oh, I think it's, no, it's a little bit, here we go. So here's the center, just about 2 inch. And we're holding both sides, and we're just pressing our awl through so it comes out on the other side. Here we go. Now we have it marked, and we can set one of our cam snap in here. And it don't matter if you put the male first and then the female, it really doesn't. So now we set that one. Use our little cam press, press it in place. Turning it around. And using our other cam snap. And pressing it in. We're almost done. Great. So here we are. That's the female. And here's our little back. Of course, we will press it just a little bit so it looks nice. But here's your finished back. And we can just close it here. And here it is, just perfect. Okay, thank you for joining me in today's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed today's project. Again, here's our finished product, and it comes in 3 sizes. It's the small size, which is a 4x4. The medium size, it's a 6x6, and the larger 8x8. And you just wondered also, who is always wondering in my sewing studio, and this is my little girl. Her name is Lady. right? You're my little girl. Yes, you are. Yeah. She's always helping me or not, but you know, but she's cute. She's a good girl. Anyway, so if you like my tutorial, just please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe down below. Click that little bell and it will notify you of additional tutorials or other cute little projects. Also, I provided the measurements of all 3 bags in a PDF file that I also attached down below. So everything is provided for you. And happy sewing and happy holidays. Bye. See you soon.